Here's some good and not so good examples of trying to convey a message with only visual information. As I mentioned in the slide set explaining how to approach this, I said that you have to make sure you use first you choose what you want to say. Then you choose the graphics that would represent that, and try not to have graphics that mean several things. For example, this is a very nice illustration. It follows a lot of good compositional rules. However, I can interpret it more than just one way. It's kind of an attempt, I think, of saying, smoking kills or something like that. But that's only because people expect that what it should say. Because you don't smoke because you'll die. However, I look at it this way. It's art. Art you can interpret any way you want. It has different meanings. One, skeletons don't smoke. Of course, that's art. But it doesn't mean that they're dead. It means that despite being dead, it doesn't mean that smoking kills you. It's despite being a skeleton, despite being dead. Even though the symbol says no smoking, this is a very rebellious skeleton. He's going to smoke anyway. I don't care if the rule says don't smoke. I'm going to smoke. So I'm being more than humorous here, or trying to be humorous. It's that it can have several meanings. And let's look at this next one right here. This one, the intention of this particular diorama was that you can see here that there is a knight, slays a dragon, gets knighted. Oh, this is missing. There was a little, like a Lone Ranger or character like that. This guy's being shot, and he's walking off in the sunset with heroine, I guess, and here you have Batman and Gotham City, and here he's saving someone. So there is repetition here. There is a pattern. It's trying to help you formulate some similarities. It is supposed to say that each error has its own heroes, but I'm not sure what we're talking about here. If we're talking about I'm not sure, because here he kills the dragon and he gets knighted, and here he's killing some other person and gets a reward, and I don't know what he's not really killing anything or shooting anybody, Matt, but is that a reward he's getting? It's the logic, and it's not quite parallel. So you can kind of get the idea, but if you had something that you're dealing with time period, if you had a timeline with years, emphasize it, we're talking about periods. And what is a hero? A hero is somebody who saves somebody else. So anyway, it's a great idea, but it's not quite parallel in all ways. Okay, this one here is quite complicated. It's comparing two things. You got a fruit bowl, and he's thinking, and you have I don't know, three suckers, and they're kind of thinking. And I was trying to draw some parallel to them. They're not on the same level here. So I'm not sure if this here is in the background and this is in the foreground and that's something different. They really should be equal comparisons. And obviously you've got rotten apples. You got a nice apple in a rotten bowl. And here you have a rotten bowl and the apple's not in there. The analogy's not quite followed through. If you put a good apple in with bad apples, it's going to go rotten too. You know that. But if it stays outside the bowl, it won't go rotten. The problem is this apple here is in the middle position, but there's a rotten apple here in the middle one. I don't know that this apple here is the same as that apple there. If there happened to have been also a similar shape with a leaf on it that's a rivel, somehow you could tie that this middle apple, he stayed in the middle, and that's what happened. Here, if he went outside the bowl, there ought to be a missing apple there. So the logic, the visual logic is not showing up. It's a little harder to follow. Now to try to explain a little bit better, there's a little comparison over here where you have some other symbols, the little devils and the little angels, you know, good and evil, bad and good. And you got some marijuana over here, and so you're trying to say here he's in the middle. It's the same thing, only that's representing, you know, people. And if he stays in the middle, he looks like he's bad just like them. And if he's a little way off to the side, so I can see the idea here. The execution isn't quite right. All of the signs have one meaning. Okay, although today marijuana, if it's legal, can mean that, oh, he's getting better, because that's like medicine, and this guy's making him better. You know, what's this mean? So you have to be careful if you're going to be using something that's bad. Then you know, make sure that you have the right symbols in here, and keep things parallel. Okay. Okay, this next one, very clean, very simple. Notice how they're on the same level, so they're equal. Okay, they're equally being compared to each other. So brain is thinking. Brains do think, right? The brains are facing each other, each way a little bit differently. Now, it's supposed to be like a left brain and a right brain, but if you saw both sides of the brain, and, you know, let's put it this way. Let's say this one here on the left is the left brain, but I don't know if it's really the left side or the right side because I don't know much about anatomy of brains. I'm thinking too much. It's because the presentation is not allowing me to think only one way. Nevertheless, let's take a look. We've got painting and music and kind of creative and artsy stuff. Over here on the right, you've got numbers and looks like things that require a lot of planning and academics and thinking and planning. And the idea is that there are two parts of the brain, you know, right brain, left brain. And one is more creative and more analytical. That's the idea here behind that. If you had just one brain, and instead of looking at it from the side, you're looking at it from the end, so you can literally see both hemispheres. And one side of the hemisphere is thinking, what you see here in the left bubble, thought bubble, and the right hemisphere is what you see in the right side, the right thought bubble. Now you see, I don't have to think, well, what are they having a duel, trying to outthink themselves? No, it's the same brain thinking. It's different sides of the brain thinks different things. So you can see I'm using the same symbols, but I have to refine a little bit more so that it can't be interpreted more than one way. This one is very simple. You've got one car that's colored and another car that's not colored. And you've got a lot of people around one car and only one person on the other car. And so I'm trying to make a comparison. The cars are pretty similar. They're probably the same car, just one's colored. Why would they be looking at that one car? It's pretty much the same car, except the only thing that's different about it is that it's colored. Well, in this case, there's only one variable, color. And there's a consequence here. The colored one has a lot of people looking at it, and the one that's not colored doesn't have a lot of people looking at it. In fact, I'm even going to take a picture of the one that's colored. So there's only one variable in one conclusion. It's like the scientific method. When you want to prove something, you make a theory, you set up an experiment, and you have one variable, and you test it. You think this is the cause, so we're going to use that's the variable, and let's take a look at what the reaction is. We look at the other one, there is no variable. See what the reaction is. Well, gee, it's different. So then, since the only thing is one variable, then the scientific method says then there must be a connection between our theory and fact. And that's what's going on here. You're concluding people are more attracted to color. Color attracts. Very simple thought. Very simple presentation. Similar idea down here, just a different process. You've got colored image and you got a black and white image, or just only a grayscale. And the people on the right seem to be more popular on the right, and the left side, they even look like, kind of curious what's going on. So what could you conclude? Same, color's the only difference, number of people different, so there must be a relationship between color and the number of people. And so you can kind of get the idea of what's more popular. Okay, here we have one. Don't look at the type in the lower left-hand corner. Now, there is type. There's words in this one. Facebook. You don't need the word Facebook. You could use some other logo, so it doesn't disqualify you from using words here. You have headlines here, but you don't need to read Facebook. You don't need to read the headlines to get it. Okay, social media on the left, traditional media, print media on the right. At the bottom, TV, and so there are three different ones, three different colors, three different groups of people's ages, three different kinds of media. So can you see the variables here? What variables do you have? You have the different kinds of media, that's one variable, and the different age groups. Anything else that's different? No. So therefore, the age group must be must be related to the media. And what's the speech bubble there for? What represents an idea or a message? Oh yeah, somebody wants to have a message. Oh, it's coming out of that one, right? There's no words in the speech bubble, but if we're trying to reach the older people, we follow the red line, and we try to reach them through the newspapers. If we're trying to reach the younger group people, then we follow the yellow line, and that'll take through the social media. And if we want the middle-aged people, we'll reach them through TV. So you can see that there's only so many meanings that each of the sign has, and there are only two variables, and they're related to each other. And so you can make a conclusion. And then this last one kind of reminds me of something out of Pac-Man, for those of you who are old-time gamers and classic video games. Different color, different expressions. You know, the cartoons, it's amazing how you can get a couple little lines on a cartoon character to represent emotion. These are great signs. People understand them. Now, hearts, kind of lovey-dovey. Exclamation marks, maybe a little excited or, surprised. But different colors. And so we can see the signs that are being used here are very simple. They can't be interpreted any other way, and they're associated. So each of the different colors is associated with a different emotion. So colors either affect emotions, cause emotions, represent emotions, something like that. Very easy to figure out. Again, this really fits in with what we're trying to do in this assignment, that is using color as a way of carrying meaning, using signs as a way of carrying meaning, and here the signs are the various graphics and the various expressions on the face.